For more than a decade, pop radio in the United States had a sound that felt unavoidable. It played in grocery stores, on highway drives, at high school dances, and through cheap earbuds on late-night bus rides. It was bright, loud, emotional, and confident. For many listeners, that sound had a face and a voice they grew up with. Her songs were not just music, they were timestamps of life moments. First loves, breakups, summer parties, gym workouts, and lonely nights all seemed to have a chorus written for them. In the early years, success looked effortless. Every release felt engineered for mass joy. The hooks were big, the visuals colorful, and the messages simple but powerful. Believe in yourself, love hard, don't apologize for being loud. America loved that energy. Radio loved it even more. Charts climbed fast, awards stacked up, and stadiums filled with fans who knew every word. For a while, it felt like pop music itself revolved around that orbit. But pop music in the United States has always been restless. It moves fast, reinvents itself, and rarely waits for anyone to catch up. Streaming changed how people listened. TikTok changed how hits were born. Attention spans shrank, aesthetics shifted, and authenticity started to matter more than polish. The industry that once rewarded perfectly packaged pop began to chase rawness, irony, and experimentation. The rules quietly changed. When new music arrived, it wasn't bad. It just felt different. The songs were cleaner, more restrained, sometimes more personal, sometimes more confused about what they wanted to be. They didn't explode across radio the way older hits had. They didn't dominate summer playlists or become unavoidable anthems. American listeners noticed, critics noticed, and social media, as it always does, put words to a feeling that had been building for a while. People began to say that the pop era was over. Not as a fact, not as an obituary, but as a narrative. A way to explain the shift. The phrase spread across comment sections, reaction videos, and think pieces. For some, it was said with sadness, like watching the end of a favorite TV show. For others, it was said with cruelty, as if success has an expiration date and relevance is something you either own or lose overnight. In the United States especially, the conversation around fame is unforgiving. The culture loves reinvention but punishes anyone who fails to transform at the exact right moment. Artists are expected to evolve, but only in ways that feel perfectly timed and perfectly aligned with trends they did not create. When they succeed, it is called growth. When they miss, it is called decline. Behind the noise, there was a quieter reality. A human being who had already achieved what most artists never will. Someone who had already shaped a generation of pop music, influenced countless younger performers, and built a catalog that still played daily across the country. But pop culture rarely values history. It values now. The end of the pop era narrative wasn't really about music quality alone. It was about dominance, about no longer owning the center of attention, about the spotlight shifting to newer faces with different sounds. In America, where youth culture drives trends, that shift can feel brutal. One day you are everywhere. The next day, you are being discussed in the past tense. Yet something interesting happens when the noise dies down. When chart pressure fades and expectations lower, freedom quietly appears. The need to chase every trend disappears. The urge to prove relevance softens. What remains is choice. To make music because you want to. To perform because you still love the stage. To exist as an artist, not a product. For many American listeners, nostalgia eventually replaces judgment. Songs that once felt overplayed become comforting again. Old hits resurface at parties, weddings, and road trips. People sing along without irony. They remember who they were when those songs mattered most. In that moment, the idea of an ended era feels less like a failure and more like a closed chapter that still gets reread. Pop eras don't really end. They just stop being the loudest thing in the room. Influence doesn't vanish, it settles into the foundation. New artists build on what came before, whether they admit it or not. The sound evolves, but the echoes remain. In the United States, where fame rises fast and falls publicly, narratives are often simpler than reality. The end of the pop era sounds dramatic, final, and clickable. The truth is quieter. An artist moved from the center to the margins. From domination to legacy. From chasing the moment to becoming part of history. And history, Unlike trends, doesn't need to be viral to last.